What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a very special video, one that I've been talking about for years now, but have finally sat down, dedicated the time to, and just really sat down and just racked my brain like which are my favorites, my top 10 favorite bands of all time. I'm not just talking about at the moment or of the 2010s. These are my favorite bands that have influenced me, that I've listened to, that have shaped me the most out of any bands on the planet. And if you're here to just comment something like, oh, your music taste is so basic, or I hate your music taste, or I like different bands, then what are you doing here? This is my top 10 favorite bands of all time. Let me know what you think of my list down in the comment section down below, and I really do hope that you enjoy this video, guys. I actually spent a ton of time going in, scripting this video, and I actually did it on a different setup. I've got a mic set up now, and I might do some more of my videos that I want to script a little bit more off camera, or else I'll have the face cam on, but most of the time it's not going to cut to that. It'll be audio only with some on-screen visuals. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Please leave a like on the video while you're here. This was a huge video for me, and I hope you guys will love it. While I won't claim to know every song by this band, I've always felt a personal connection to this jack-of-all-trades rock band. My first love was Give It Away, followed shortly after by a purchase of their 2006 double album, Stadium Arcadium. I steadily progressed into more of the Chili Peppers singles, albums, finding gems like Other Side and Purple Stain, holding particularly fascinating qualities to them that made me an even bigger fan. The tides of life really started to bring me closer to them in 2012 when I saw them live in concert, headlining Bonnaroo and absolutely mesmerizing me with their on-stage skill and persona. Flea owns the hell out of that bass. Kiedis kicks it on stage like he's still in the prime of his youth, so let's face it, even though they no longer have John Frusciante, these guys still kick tons of ass, all the way from last year's change of pace, The Getaway, back to the classics like By the Way and Mother's Milk. Proud fan right here since 2005, and while it was a tough battle between multiple bands for the number 10 spot, I had to choose Red Hot Chili Peppers, if not solely for their longevity in rock and consistently great quality of music.
Act like I'm not around, the coast will probably never clear. Can I please go home now? I had that dream about you again, where I wait outside until you let me in, and there I stay.
I know as this list progresses, there's a few surprising omissions that will send some people in the comments into a craze wondering, what the hell, I thought you loved this band. Yes, Blink-182 did make my favorite bands of all time list, but they didn't chart nearly as high as they would have even 5 years ago for me. Let's focus on my love for them though in this video. That's what you're here for. Why Blink? What have they done for you personally over the years, John? Well, for starters, they really helped drive my love for pop punk in my formative years. As I've said many times at this point, I really started to love music in 2005, once I realized what my friends were listening to was a hell of a lot better than contemporary Christian and country radio that I was getting fed by my parents. Blink was one of those early rebellions for me. I remember so vividly sitting at my cousin's house, buying songs off of iTunes, burning them to a CD because I didn't have a computer at home. I got the Untitled album, Enema of the State, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, and I was full throttle in love. I mainly skipped around at first, being the naive young teen that I was. I just listened to the super catchy upbeat ones and the singles that all my friends would surely be singing along on long car rides. As I entered high school, Blink became more and more of a favorite of mine, and I really did start to journey into their albums, even the earlier stuff like Cheshire Cat and Dude Ranch. Punk rock sensibilities, two lead vocalists that seemed to balance each other out perfectly, and a blast of punk energy that was easy to sing and fun to dance to. I still have a huge soft spot for it to this day, as yes, some of their songs are goofy as hell, but many others show a talent and level of rock musicianship many even didn't bother to pay attention to. From tearing up whenever I learned that they had reunited at the 2009 Grammys, to losing Tom DeLonge again, to Aliens and Angels, Blink still have a special place in my heart all these years later.
Adios, rock band that we love the most. This is a toast to what you did and all that you were fighting for. Who could do more when time marches on?
can't get a girl? Well, in high school, I know I sure couldn't, so it's only natural that my interest in Weezer and the lyrics of the forever nerd at heart Rivers Cuomo would grow exponentially through my high school years. I wasn't a geek per se, although I for some reason allowed my dad to cut my hair until I was 17 in typical 90s kid bowl cut fashion, but that's besides the point. Geeky rock with loud guitars, sunshiny melodies, and a feeling of familiarity riveted my interest, starting with what's now considered to be one of their worst albums, Make Believe. Yep, that's where it all began. Perfect Situation is still my favorite Weezer song in 2017. I just developed such a connection with that cut due to feeling outcast, rejected, and unwanted, not by just women, but often by people in general, due to growing up in such a conservative environment. I really can't knock Weezer's drive through the years, even if albums like Gratitude do stick out kinda like a sore thumb at this point. They've done heavier metal-tinged riffs that I adore on Maladroit, polarized an entire 90s fan base that wanted happier songs on the super personal classic Pinkerton, and dropped the mic on naysayers by releasing two of the best albums of their career, with Everything Will Be Alright in the End, and of course 2016's self-titled White Album. I'm every bit as entertained by this band as I was whenever I was a 13-year-old kid, if not more at this point, because I actually comprehend and relate to more of the lyrics from their records at this point in my life. It's like that sad friend who's been through it all, telling me, look, here's the sad times, but things brighten up all the time, so straighten yourself out. Thanks, Weezer, and thanks for everything.
Nobody got me waiting in pain, but how come it's so easy to you? You don't strike me as a type to be careless, but your words seem so obtuse. But then again, I know you feel guilty and you tell me you want me again. But I don't need any of your pity, I got plenty of my own friends, they're all above me.
Jack White was my idol growing up, shredding the guitar, melting my face off, and appearing on the very first mixtape I was ever given. Looking at it now, a lot of these bands were on my first mix CD that I ever had. It just goes to show you how powerful your early influences can be, and how you sort of retain a lifelong affection for the music that you loved in your youth. Fortunately, instead of a Britney Spears or Five Finger Death Punch phase, I was lucky enough to have smart pals in the neighborhood and the music channel Fuse to point me in the right direction of the White Stripes. The smoldering riffs of Blue Orchid had me dancing in my bedroom, Seven Nation Army made me sing along in the shower, and the album Get Behind Me Satan became one of the first 5 that I ever purchased for myself. It had a calming effect on me that not a lot of other popular rock bands of the time had, with jams like The Nurse perpetuating my adoration of groovier tunes, and My Doorbell spicing up my interest in the piano. Hell, I was fascinated by this band so much I would stay up late to record their visits to Conan O'Brien on late night TV or to rewatch televised concerts on Fuse. Their music videos were all recorded to VHS for rewatching purposes, and I even decked out my own personal bathroom in red, white, and black when I was 15 due to my love for the duo. While the times changed, the White Stripes always stayed true to themselves, with Jack White in particular truly pouring his soul into the music they were making. I was devastated whenever I learned of their breakup in 2011, but I'll always hold on to a glimmer of hope for a reunion, even if it's just for a few shows or a one-off Conan performance, for example. Elephant and White Blood Cells, along with Get Behind Me Satan, of course, remain my favorite records from them, and I'll continue to follow Jack's solo work with a keen admiration in my eyes. How could I not always show support for someone I've looked up to so much for so long? Long live the legacy of the White Stripes. Josh Homme has always been a very interesting figure in rock music to me. He's full of himself, but shouldn't he be? The man's orchestrated some of the most compelling rock records of the 2000s, from Rated R to Like Clockwork. Don't we owe him some praise, even if that ego's a bit inflated? The Queens of the Stone Age story and legacy is a bit complicated whenever it comes to changing band members, but one thing is for certain. I love every single album they've created. No, they're not all perfect scores in my book. Era Vulgaris is the weak point for them, if any of those curious cats out there are wondering anxiously which hit the bottom of the totem pole for me. But even there, they showed signs of life through experimentation and by trial and error. Collaboration has always been one of my favorite things about Queens, further proof that Homme is willing to relinquish control to others in the form of vocal duties and instrumentalists. The desert-influenced form of stoner rock that describes much of their material is often so ace, I practically find myself drooling over certain riffs, or creative ideas within albums. I seriously couldn't get enough of Lullabies to Paralyze after falling head over heels for cuts like the twisted Little Sister or the ominous, almost cult-like Burn the Witch. The LP was my first full-length experience with the band, and I felt like I'd stumbled into a room full of gold. It was darker than I expected, but I fucking loved every second of it. Someone's in the Wolf, Everybody Knows That You Are Insane, and Tangled Up in Plaid were some deep cuts that stayed in constant rotation for me, prodding me to eventually check out Songs for the Deaf from the library. The love and admiration has only grown fonder with time, kinda like a fine wine. Even their earlier works, like the self-titled album or Rated R, hit me with a punch that just feels stronger than it did 10 years ago. Maybe it's because I'm actually listening to the full albums now and understanding a lot more of what's going on technically and lyrically, but I do think it speaks volumes of this band's all-inspiring talent in general.
Some men die under the mountain just looking for gold. Some die looking for a hand to hold. Well, I'll carry this box to its proper place, and we'll lower it down and let you fade away. I hope that you would do this for me.
Heaven Sent. Don't you dare forget. This band isn't in it for the glamour, they're not on the cover of your favorite magazines. Instead, they make the music that most simply will not, pushing the envelope with gut-wrenching emotions and keyed up soft, quiet dynamics that bring out the inner emo in all of us. For those that think, oh, I never had an inner emo, or claim that it died off long ago, go ahead and do me a favor, throw on The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me in full, and come back and tell me that you feel nothing as you listen to the band's take on death, religion, and self-worth. I owe so much to records like that and Deja and Tindu. It's one of those things, along with even Daisy, that continue to push forward my taste in music. While every album is vastly different, they've sailed from the seas of pop-punk to emo and rock effortlessly over the years, and even though we have no idea exactly when or if that final album is coming, Brand New will remain vital to me for a lifetime. I knew who Muse were starting in 2006, around the time of the release of Black Holes and Revelation, but the stupid teen in me never put the two and two together to listen to more of their material. The first time I heard Knights of Sidonia was on the radio, and let me tell you, it was angelic. I'm talking about 14-year-old John trying to scoop his jaw off the floor as he danced around his bedroom to this massive rock epic. I still go nuts for bombastic moments like that, but I of course ended up checking out every Muse record and really anything related to the band that I could get my hands on. Origin of Symmetry made me develop a love for sporadic prog and space-laced rock, while Absolution and Showbiz blew me away with how over-the-top and grandiose they felt with their huge piano hits, towering vocals, and an overall sense of urgency. Really top-notch material that's truly hit me over time. Muse have played so many different styles of rock over the years, but what continues to impress me is their ability to shape-shift without losing their identity in the process. I can't recall a Muse album coming out in the past 10 years and fans just losing their minds over how awful and different it is, and that's not something many bands can say. They know their immense talent for both loud and quieter moments, and they riff on both marvelously, lacing together heartfelt moments followed by genuine rage on several different scales. You want it, they got it. Plus, they've got at least 20 songs I can name off the top of my head that make you want to go out, run, take over, conquer the world, or maybe some sort of virtual world, so that's always an added bonus too. I had the most frustrating time trying to sell my friends on Paramore all the way back in 2006 or maybe even 2007. I was into a handful of songs from All We Know Is Falling, like Franklin and My Heart, but my shy hints to them just didn't seem to be landing. I, of course, continued loving them, even dedicating some of my evenings freshman year of high school to making chipmunk versions of their songs. That's right, for the first time ever, I'm being totally serious whenever I reveal that I was the channel known as the Chipmunk Guru on YouTube. Anyways, Riot landed in 2007, and suddenly people at my school were talking about Misery Business, and then whenever Rock Band came out, all of my friends were continuously hooked on That's What You Get. This was one of the first times I had ever been ahead of the curve, verb, and it felt good whenever people were coming to me asking me more about this band. By the time Brand New Eyes released my senior year of high school, I could confidently play the CD in my car for friends without feeling shame for loving this band that no one seemed to give a damn about even 2 years ago. That record I just mentioned was a life changer for me, since yes, I still love most of Riot and a good amount of All We Know to this day, but this is the one that opened my eyes to how truly talented Hayley Williams is as a vocalist, and how good a modern rock band could sound as they tear through these pain and rage-filled emotions. Of course, I was devastated when the Farrow brothers departed from this band, but hope still fluttered in my heart while I waited 4 long years for what eventually turned into Paramore's self-titled album. Not only is that record nearly flawless, it rivals the likes of Brand New Eyes, which dropped my jaw. How did a band down 2 members still sound so triumphant? Even through the lineup changes, the reintroduction of drummer Zach Farrow, and the loss of longtime bassist Jeremy Davis, Paramore remain a flagship for what evolving rock bands should be. They did the whole emo and pop-punk alternative thing, then they transcended it, and then they ran a victory lap. Concerned as I may be about some of my former favorite bands' upcoming releases, Paramore's future is of no worry to me.
Some say now suffer all the children and walk away a savior or a madman and polluted from gutter institutions. Don't you breathe on me, undeserving of your sympathy.
Emo. That's the label that was affixed to this band early on, but all these years later, the legacy that they created shows how much bigger they are than any stupid tag. My Chemical Romance were one of the first bands that I was ever properly introduced to, and it instantly gave me a fascination for their theatrical vibe, goth-inspired makeup, and dramatic overtone. I sang my heart out to the singles from 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge and practically cried the day the Black Parade finally came out and I wasn't able to buy it right away. Within a week, I got my hands on it and I couldn't stop smiling as I fell in love with it from front to back. I wasn't a huge album guy at the time, but records like this truly shaped who I am, what I love, and my desire to always discover more about a band. Not many bands could continue to revamp and revitalize their position in the scene with every passing album, but somehow MCR did just that, progressing from the passionate and raw Bullets all the way to the party in the desert dance rock on Danger Days. Gerard Way is a truly incredible vocalist that can both haunt and shock with his capabilities, although the rest of the band has to be credited big time too, as they are the ones that help carve these songs in my memory forever. Say what you will, but we don't have bands like this anymore. Not with the true spirit of rock and roll, willing to sacrifice what people might think of them over their looks and their art for the sake of the music. They paved the way for so many other bands, and even some copycats, but as we all know, there's only one My Chemical Romance. If you've ever watched this channel before, you probably, maybe, just maybe, had an idea on what my favorite band of all time might be. That's right, Green Day are sitting at number 1, the same place I would have put them at in 2005 whenever I first found them, and the same place they'll continue to sit for years to come. But when someone asks me, don't you think you've outgrown Green Day? I can only respond with a laugh and a sarcastic retort like, how do you outgrow the biggest influence that you've ever had in your entire life? It'd be like saying that I've outgrown my parents because I'm 25 and no longer rely on them. American Idiot changed how I saw the world. I went from a naive youngster to a tortured teen in a matter of weeks after scoring the album on a burned CD from a friend, which wasn't an easy task considering how strict my parents were about my music intake. I had heard the entire record many times, but in pieces and often in the distance as my buddy Phil would play it in the background on his boombox while we terrorized the neighborhood on skateboards and gas-powered scooters. I craved this album, but Phil's CD burner broke right around the time he was getting me into all these bands. I finally got it and I found myself tearing up listening to it. It was so beautiful, so unlike anything that I had ever heard before. A rock opera, something I had never experienced before. Characters, stories, relatable truths that I needed to hear. I'm not gonna pretend like I had it so tough as a kid. Even though I grew up in a very low-income family, I never went without food, a house, or even cable TV. What I did lack was something or someone telling me that I wasn't this awful person that I was made out to be sometimes at my Christian school that I attended. Something had to remind me that I wasn't alone and that there was an escape in music. Boulevard of Broken Dreams remains my favorite song of all time. I'll never let go of something that stirred me so deeply that it genuinely helped fix my mindset on life. So what if I was alone, and so what if even my friends at school didn't get it? I had Green Day, I had MCR, I had all of these brand new bands that I was affixed to, and that outlook helped my time at that school so much. Later that 7th grade year, I realized that this girl Laura in my class liked Green Day too, and as she had this heart grenade patch secretly attached to her backpack, I realized, hey, maybe I have another rebel on my hands. In our Bible class, we sat near each other and took turns passing our bags back and forth, writing Green Day lyrics mainly from American Idiot type songs, all over until we ran out of space entirely. Some of the fondest musical memories that I have in my life involve this band, and I can truly say that I love every single thing about them. There's not an awful album, there's not a tragic breakup or bitter fighting within the band. It's just 3 punk rock dudes stating their case and still playing songs with the guts and determination of a band half their age. From the earlier days of the band that still hold up amazingly well, to the willingness to try new things on Nimrod and Warning, and of course to their punk rock opera days and beyond, I'll still be a fan, watching, loving, waiting for what's next as long as they choose to do this magical thing called Green Day. It's finally out there in the world, ARTV's top 10 favorite bands of all time. I hope you guys were really entertained by this and enjoyed getting some insight on my music taste in this video. If you would like to see another video that I have planned similar to this that will let you explore my taste in music and just how things evolved over the years, sound off in the comments section and let me know with a like on the video. If you're able to, guys, please support me on Patreon. It's the top link in the description down below, or you can click the little annotation over there in the corner. It helps support the videos on a monthly basis, and it'll help me do YouTube full-time eventually. If you want to see another top 10, click right here, or another recent review right here. Social media linked in the description. Other than that, I'll see you guys very soon right here on ARTV.